When two countries sit down to negotiate, the whole point is to find some kind of common ground. But what happens when the very foundation you need to build on, trust, just isn't there? Today, we're going to dig into the really deep-seated issues that turn US-Iran negotiations into this high-stakes battle against history itself.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. The question we're tackling is on the surface pretty simple, but man, is it complex. Why are these talks always so incredibly difficult? It's a puzzle that has left diplomats frustrated for years, where any little breakthrough feels like it could fall apart at any second. And right out of the gate, we get a huge piece of the answer from Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bakr Kalibaf. He lays it out plain and simple. Past experiences, including two previous wars, had left Iran with no trust in the opposing side. So we're not just talking about policy disagreements here. We're talking about the deep scars of history.
So to really get what's going on, we have to dig into that idea. Let's try to unpack what they mean by a fundamental lack of trust and see how it really does shape every single move they make.
And this right here is absolutely crucial. This isn't just some negotiating tactic, a clever move at the bargaining table. It's a core belief. It's the lens through which Iran's leadership sees everything. Every proposal, every statement from the US gets filtered through this deep-seated conviction that, hey, based on our history, we just can't assume you're acting in good faith. And this timeline just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows the chain reaction perfectly. Those two previous wars the speaker mentioned, we're often talking about the Iran-Iraq War, where the US backed Saddam Hussein, and the whole history of interventions back in the Cold War. Those aren't just footnotes in a history book. For Iran, they are the source code for the deep-seated skepticism that powers their current diplomatic stance. It's a straight line from past conflict to present-day caution. Okay, so let's look at how this all plays out. If you fundamentally believe you can't trust the person across the table, how does that change your strategy? Well, as it turns out, it leads to a diplomatic playbook that looks a whole lot like a game of patience. So here's the kicker. From the Iranian perspective, this trust problem, well, it's a problem the US created. And because of that, it's up to the US to solve it. They see the burden of proof resting squarely on America's shoulders to prove that this time things are going to be different.
And that way of thinking translates into a really clear three-step strategy. First, they'll show up and present what they call forward-looking initiatives. But, and this is the important part, step two is they basically sit back and require the US to give them concrete assurances. And because they're pretty sure that's not going to be easy, step three is to just get comfortable and prepare for a very, very long process.
This quote from the Iranian Foreign Ministry just says it all. It was natural that the deal would not be achieved in one session. There's absolutely zero expectation of some quick win or a sudden breakthrough. They're telling everyone involved, hey, get ready. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience really is the name of the game here.
Now, this is where the story gets really critical. This deep, profound lack of trust, it isn't just a tool for foreign policy. It has a powerful echo right inside Iran's own borders. The suspicion they have for their adversaries on the outside is mirrored by a state of high alert on the inside.
And you can see right here how perfectly that external diplomatic posture is mirrored internally. It's like two sides of the same coin. Cautious engagement with the US on the world stage corresponds to heightened suspicion back home. The demand for trust in negotiations runs parallel to an active perception of internal threats. And that skepticism of American intentions, it directly fuels these aggressive crackdowns on anyone suspected of espionage. And believe me, this isn't just some abstract political theory. Not at all. This has a very real, very serious human cost. We're talking about more than 50 people arrested, accused of collaborating with foreign enemies. This mistrust is changing lives.
And when you look at the details of these arrests, it's pretty intense. The accusations are severe. Everything from so-called mercenary activity to sharing sensitive information on the country's infrastructure. Authorities are seizing satellite equipment, weapons, and this is all happening under a newly enhanced espionage law that comes with some extreme penalties. It paints a picture of a state that truly believes it is under attack from within.
So all of this really brings us to the final and most critical question. With such a heavy history casting this long shadow over every single interaction, both at the negotiation table and at home, is it even possible for the past to be overcome? Okay, so let's pull all this together. What are the big takeaways here? First, history isn't just background noise. It is the main engine driving Iran's policy today. Second, that fundamental lack of trust we've been talking about, that's the single biggest roadblock in any negotiation. And finally, this mistrust is fighting a war on two fronts, fueling a patient, cautious foreign policy and a very strict, severe internal security policy.
And that leaves us with a bigger thought to chew on, doesn't it? The US-Iran relationship is a pretty powerful case study, but the question it brings up is universal. In a world that's always trying to move forward, just how heavy is the anchor of the past? How much does history really weigh on the decisions we make today?